Okay, folks. Well, welcome to Report Out. It's good to see you all. I'm delighted we've got a report out today, and it's quite a special one, this, because we've got 4 colleagues receiving their ALT certification, which is a real achievement, and hoping for a bit of reflection on your experience. So I'm delighted to start today's report out by congratulating Claire Gaunt, Elaine Cross, Jeannie Patterson, and Lawrence Hayes. So really well done, guys. Great work. I think, to have done this during such a difficult time, while we've all been having to work very differently, where we've been challenged with the operational pressures, all of the flexibility and adaptability, but actually to have achieved this during that period and hopefully used it to help respond to some of those challenges is really, really good. So, Helen, I know we've got a bit of reflection from colleagues, so I will stop and allow colleagues to come in and maybe give us some of their thoughts and reflections on how it's been, and maybe some of the key learning points and how you're applying this to your work. So I'll stop there and hand to you, Helen, maybe to guide us through the reflections.
Thanks, Julian. And I would just absolutely echo the congratulations for the 4 people today. They really have persevered. And, it's just been a delight this week to be able to sign them off. And so Claire's going to start us off. And so Claire, Elaine and Lawrence are going to give verbal reflections. And then Jeannie's just got a short presentation to share about a piece of work that she's done using the method. So Claire, I will hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Thanks, Julian. And I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity for having done advanced lean training. It's been really great, and it's one of the good things that I think I've done and look back on. So really, I just want to sort of share 4 key reflections, and also give you an insight into how my reflections have changed how I'm taking things forward and are shaping the practice around advanced lean training. So the first one that I reflected upon was the importance of observation. And I think the things that really struck me was this concept of big eyes, big ears and small mouth. That really hit home for me. And when we were doing our, went out on the Gemba, and Elaine and I spent 2 days in interventional radiology. And also, unfortunately, at the time when I was doing my ALT, my dad was in hospital with sepsis for 2.5 months in the LGI. So I had a big time of observation and really saw things at first hand during that period. And I think, it really hit home for me that, as a finance person, we focus on, cash release and savings and things on a waste reduction tracker. But it really hit home about how waste is an adverse thing that happens to the people who use our services, and that really struck me. And I think the other thing as well that I've observed over the last sort of couple of years is that, yes, it's about going on the Gemba, but in some ways COVID and seeing things, happen on emails and more virtually has almost allowed me to see things play out in front of me that I probably wouldn't have observed if, you can't almost be everywhere. So I think the thing about going and seeing is something that, was a real big thing that had an impact on me personally. The second thing was about the real need to understand behaviours and personalities, and behaviours and personalities really comes into this. ALT is a set of techniques, but when you're teaching it and really trying to get people to engage, how people react is really key. And I think, some of the things that struck me, and I observed that, standard work for some people is really welcomed and they want procedures, but for others, they can see that as being micromanagement. Looking at waste and mistakes and things like that, some people are really up for that, but other people feel threatened by it and see it as a criticism. So again, these personalities and behaviours come into play. Attention to detail and looking at process but some see it as being almost, you can almost delay the completion of the task and put unnecessary steps in. So I think, as I say, my second reflection is about the need to not forget about behaviours and personalities when trying to do these things and also teach people. The third one is about, and again, this was something that struck us, I think, when we went into interventional radiology, is about understanding normalized behavior. You know, it's almost that people understand and can see where things go wrong and where things cause problems, but it's almost become normalized, and they achieve good things despite it. And they've almost accepted their lot. They've put in workarounds and they do their best and they still achieve great things. And I think, again, that links to my behaviours things, that we have to think about how we make a change. And I think when everybody's busy, that is also something that is also quite difficult and needs to be, you know, thought about when teaching people how to take these techniques forward. And then my final reflection was around, I think some people think lean techniques and things is about addressing what is inefficient currently, but I think we need to remember is the power of that when we're designing new ways of doing things, that we don't repeat the inefficiencies of the past, and that we use these techniques to design what we're doing going forward. And I think obviously at the point when we're now looking at recovery, thinking about how we do things in the past, you know, thinking that how we put things in place in the future is really key. And you know, one of the areas that I'm involved in, and this struck me the other day, was we were looking at the ophthalmology business case for the new ophthalmology centre on Gledhow Wing. And obviously that's a really great opportunity to get the patient flow right, to be able to address some of those issues that have, you know, that have been, you know, there for many years in Chancellor Wing. So they're my sort of 4 key reflections. I think in terms of how that shaped me and changing my practice going forward is, I think advanced leans training has given me a whole set of new tools, and I hope I can pass those on to people. But also I think there's real value in combining them with the coaching training that I did a few years ago. So I've noticed that my coaching training and my coaching skills are really coming into line to help me take that advanced lean training forward. And I think the third bit, and again, this is linked to a lot of the stuff that we've done sort of in our teams and things, is about how there's a lot of power in doing team and individual development and helping and understanding personalities and behaviours. And we've done a lot of work around the insights, using the insights tools. And I think if you combine all those 3 things, I think that is how going forward I'm hopefully going to be able to maximise engagement, maximise impact, and help others to really bring about the change that, you know, we need. And at the end of the day, you know, this is about making everything as good as we can for our patients, but also the people that work in LTHT as well, because these inefficiencies in process affect the staff as well as the people who are on the receiving end. So I think they're the main things I'd like to share from the ALT and the years since we did our original teach backs.
Fantastic. That's great, Claire. Many, many thanks. Really powerful, I think, that. I'm going to move straight on because I want to let other colleagues present, and then we'll do questions at the end, because I'm sure colleagues will have some questions or comments for you. So shall we move on, Helen, to is it Elaine next?
It is, yeah.
Hello, hi. So yeah, I'm Elaine Cross. I'm one of the assistant directors of finance, and Claire and I did our advanced lean training together. And again, I would just like to echo and how grateful actually I am that we got that opportunity. It was really challenging, but actually it was really enjoyable. We had a great group, and it was quite a lot of fun to do. So again, the reflections that I have had through this is that I guess working with our team, it was sort of a corporate function and finance team. A lot of the way we came back and did a waste walk, and a lot of the wastes that were identified, it's really interesting now that a lot of them have been eliminated through this complete change in the way we work now. So, you know, going to meetings and going on the shuttle and printing, all of those things have just gone. And that's just interesting that that's, you know, almost overnight, and people have adapted. So there's something about how adaptable people are to change. But lots of the stuff that we do, it's about wastes of information, really. So rework and waiting and process variation. And so having the opportunity that Claire talked about to go into interventional radiology was just brilliant, really. It was really interesting. The chance to see patients flowing through a process, which we don't normally see, sort of physical nature of that. And to be able to see the consequence and the impact of any sort of mistakes and errors and how they sort of played out. And it wasn't just the fact that that valuable resource was wasted. So there's an interventional radiology theatre lying wasted for a session or a couple of hours, but it was the impact on the patient. And actually that was really powerful to see. And the difference between, that and redoing a spreadsheet, it's quite a difference, and that had quite an impact on us, really. I guess in terms of how I've used this with my team, so I feel quite lucky. I have a team who are really up for change. They've got 1 or 2 people who really look for it, and they want to make improvements. So doing and implementing some of this has been really, but maybe a bit easier than it might have been. I think for me, it's that thing about listening to people and not imposing solutions on them. So when we're either reviewing a process or implementing a new process, there's a real you're so tempted sometimes when people come to you with a problem to jump right in with the answer. And I think I've had to stop myself and say, reflect things back to them and say, what do you think we should do? And it's really true that the people doing the job are the best placed to come up with the solution. And I think sometimes, this is another reflection, I think sometimes when they bring problems, I think they're coming looking for permission. I think there's a real thing about empowerment. And when you say to them, well, what do you think we should do? You go do it, because that sounds great to me. I think that's helped a lot. And I think that's changed the way I have to really stop myself from jumping straight in with the answer, because people can usually find their own probably better answer. Just on that issue about empowerment, I was asked to do a waste walk recently. So one of the CSUs that I support with having a waste week, and I was asked to go and do a waste walk with them. And there was an issue where it was crying out for a 5S. And when we asked them why they hadn't done it, it was because they didn't have permission to do it. So I think there's something about how we empower people. I don't think you can just tell people that they're empowered. I think you have to demonstrate that. So there was just something really interesting for me in that. The final reflection, I guess, is about this waste week that I've just done, which was really interesting. It was in one of our clinical CSUs, and it really reminded me of the importance of listening, and listening to understand, and to not make any assumptions, and to just listen and hear what people have got to say. And I guess the link to that is that, we give CSUs financial targets each year where they've got significant savings to achieve. And sometimes you get to that thought of, is this getting to the point where we can't, we're asking too much? But actually, this waste, it was almost a gold mine of waste, and it just felt like, wow, this is an opportunity. There is so much opportunity to achieve waste, and it's not about cutting anything, isn't it? It's about improving services, and we should make the savings that way. So yeah, it felt like it's still an opportunity, really. Yeah, so thank you.
Fantastic, Elaine. Thank you so much. Really, really good. And so I think some really powerful observations that help us with thinking about the Leeds way, particularly your point about empowerment. I'm just going to pause actually to allow Simon to come in, because I'm sure he's proud of both of you. So Simon.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. Really fantastic to hear both Claire and Elaine's reflections, and I'm so pleased that they've seen it through, and can't have been easy trying to complete this during the COVID. So some really great learning that they've got individually, but also what they can bring to the team. So congratulations to both of them.
Thanks very much, Simon. Okay, Helen, shall we keep? Let's keep moving, and we'll pick up questions, I'm sure, for Claire and Elaine at the end. But we've got. Let's move on. Lawrence, I can see you there.
Thanks, Julian. I guess first of all, I'd like to thank Helen and Jimmy for kind of giving the opportunity. I appreciate it must have been really difficult for them to get me through the system, because as it happens, I actually started this back in August 2019, and our completion session was supposed to be in March 2020, but I think for obvious reasons it was postponed. And since then, I've actually changed roles since completing this. So I've gone from a role in HR to now working in medical education. But in terms of my reflections, I think, first of all, is I was lucky enough to experience the majority of this in person, and I was actually able to attend the sessions, which at the time I think I probably took for granted. But looking back at it, it was so helpful and so beneficial to actually be there and be able to go and do the observations in person and those sorts of things. But I really enjoyed my experience. It was really great to collaborate with colleagues that I wouldn't normally cross paths with and hear about the work they do. Getting stuck into the methodologies and the techniques was at the sessions was great, and it gave me the opportunity to see things at the trust that I hadn't been exposed to before, and just to try and understand the bigger picture of ALT and the aims that it's trying to achieve. I personally, I struggled at times. So I don't have a clinical background, and my work was office based. So when colleagues at the sessions were kind of giving examples of ward-based or patient-related scenarios, I would feel a little bit kind of guilty that I wasn't able to provide similar examples. And at times, I think I struggled to link the methodologies to my work, which was primarily computer-based and not in a physical setting. Especially when kind of a lot of the material at the sessions were, patient or customer focused. But I have to say, Jimmy and Helen were great at making the sessions inclusive for me. And when I would inevitably raise my hand to ask a question, they would always provide great explanations and answers for me. And I suppose a reflection for me in terms of what I would do differently, I think I'd try and think outside the box a bit more. By that, I mean I wouldn't restrict myself to areas that I'm traditionally comfortable with. So whether that be approaching a colleague that works in a different area to try and learn and understand about one of their processes, just as an example. But I think changing roles as well has kind of added another dimension to it for me. I work in a bigger team now. Well, there's more people in my team, and the work's more varied. So it's kind of given me an opportunity to think about the application of the techniques in this new team. And I would say that the lean methodologies and the Leeds improvement method is something that's really championed by Stuart Haynes, who's my line manager now, and he's really tried to embed it in the team. And even some of my colleagues that haven't undergone any of the lean training, they're really enthusiastic about it, and they're keen to kind of be led by the handful of us who have done it. So I'd say it's looking really positive for the future. And yeah, that's my reflections. Thank you.
Brilliant, Lawrence. Thank you very, very much for that. And I want to give Stuart an opportunity, maybe just to add to my congratulations and thanks.
Thank you. Well, I wasn't expecting a name check there, but because Lawrence has been a fantastic addition to our team, and I know he brought a lot of the experience from ALT, from HR into it. I echo everything he said, really. I've only done Lean for Leaders, but I did it physically, and I can concur with everything that Claire and Elaine and Lawrence has said. Congratulations to all three of you, but Lawrence, I'm looking forward to gaining all the experience that you've gained and applying it across the medical directorate. Brilliant.
Thanks, Stuart. Great stuff, and good to hear how much you use it in the directorate. Really good. And finally, Jeannie.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to look at how I applied some of these things, and then I'll do some reflections afterwards. But a bit like Lawrence, I also started in 2019, so a lot of what he said I also echo, and thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. And thanks to Helen and Jimmy and the whole team. I know how much work goes on behind the scenes, having also done it in person. There's an awful lot of organising goes on there, and some mind-boggling mathematics ends up coming into play as well. So if I can move on to the next slide. We were looking at occupational dermatitis, and that's where basically staff who are in the clinical workplace who wash their hands a lot. Dermatitis can be caused by a lot of things, but in this context, we were looking at staff who, because of frequent hand washing, just get really, really sore hands. And what was actually happening is that historically, we've always had an hour-long consultation for any staff member who's referred to occupational health with this problem. And during the winter months, when we're really snowed under with lots of student clinics and things going on, we can get a bit of a backlog. And these are very long, complex consultations. And it just occurred to us really that actually there's probably a lot of cases where we're just giving basic skincare advice, which staff shouldn't really have to wait to come to occupational health for. So we looked at an audit, and that was in 2020. And so using the Leeds tools, but also that whole idea of direct observation and how you adapt that, because that's one of my main reflections really, is that these tools and principles and values are so adaptable and can be used in any situation. It just takes a bit of imagination, which the team were always very able to give me a few pointers on. So 2/3 of the cases that were being referred to us, the advice we were giving was good skincare advice. And when we gave that, the problem went away. So we thought, well, actually, that's we're doing these big, long consultations, which is causing a backlog. So if I can go on to the next slide, please. So we worked with the health and safety team in HR to produce some training for managers and training for staff. And it was also about introducing this role of a manager in the workplace as a responsible person, which means in health and safety terms, you've got somebody on the ground in the workplace who knows what should happen and can support staff to stay healthy and safe in the workplace. But we also put in a new process ourselves in occupational health, where we now try and support a manager as a responsible person rather than, well, we do advise staff as well, but knowing that 2/3 of these cases, actually people needed that workplace advice in the workplace. And I think one of the things that we had to be mindful of is a lot of managers at first were kind of not very happy about this completely. And there were fears about, oh, I've got to diagnose somebody. I don't know, I'm not a dermatologist, and well, what am I going to do? And I haven't got time. And again, it was looking at where is the waste and where is the value? Because actually responsible persons are all over the country. They're in garages, they're in manufacturing plants, they're not clinicians. It's just as simple as knowing what should happen and making sure the right things are available, such as hand cream, lots and lots of emollient, making sure people know what they should be doing, and then actually just visually inspecting someone's hands, because the very first sign of something going wrong is where you get dry hands. It's so simple, it's not as complicated as it looks. But if you've got dry hands, it means the oils are being stripped out of your hands, and it means that you need to do something to resolve that. And most people ignored dry hands, and then they'd be referred to us when their hands were in really quite poor condition. So, and from the manager's point of view, and from the staff and the team's point of view, if you get somebody with really sore hands and then the skin starts to break, that person has to come out of clinical work. So to actually have a visual inspection of everyone's hands once a week or once a month, and that actually is going to be a lot easier to do than actually waiting for something to go really wrong and then having to refer in and possibly do without that member of staff for a while. So the value in that was to the manager, the staff, and to us in occupational health as well. So if I could take the next slide, please. So now what we do is we contact managers initially, kind of looking for that 2/3 of cases that we know are going to be out there, that this person probably needs more skincare advice. We do still do short consultations, but instead of being hour-long complex ones, we do 30-minute shorter ones, so we can actually see people a little bit more often. Or a lot of that is remote still. But we've shifted the whole focus really towards prevention, and one outcome is that we still have a lot of referrals. And I think one lesson is this just takes time to roll it out across a trust of 20,000 plus employees. But we are seeing far fewer really serious cases. In fact, I think we haven't had to refer anyone on for quite a long time, so that's good. So the next slide, please. So what went well? I would just echo so much of what's already been said. I think specifically, one of the things that I learned, it is this direct observation and looking at the evidence. So if you've been doing something, our nurses get so much value out of caring for people. And this goes quite deep. You look at someone, they're in a pickle, you sort them out, they say thank you. So to actually have to face the fact that that might not in every case be exactly the best way of doing it. And to be able to give advice to a manager where you might not get that same sense of personal satisfaction in some ways, but actually it's that knowledge that you've actually affected probably a whole team by supporting that manager, not just the one person that you're talking to. And And I think another thing I learned is that actually it's so easy to make, well, it's not easy to make a change, it's challenging to make a change, but that's as it comes. The problem is sustaining it. And you can't really move on to improving again unless you sustain the changes that you've got. That's the word Kaizen. It's about this idea of continuous change and improvement. So some of those values that went with the Leeds improvement methodology, such as, respect, and some of the things that Claire was mentioning, and actually giving people time to see. It's not your opinion, it's this direct observation. This is the evidence of what we're doing, and this is what we could do. It's not an opinion or idea, it's not a criticism. And giving people the time. And it was our Band 5 nurse advisor team I'm really proud of, because they got together and they worked so hard on this. It did kind of take forever, and sometimes we thought, oh, we're going to get there, but we did. And I think it's ultimately it's about change, different behaviours moving forward. So, but those were the things that went well. And the last slide, I think, was what didn't go well, or what we do differently. So anyway, what I would do differently, I think, is try and some of our team were really quite keen to do some of the training, and then all the pandemic happened and things changed. So I am really interested in the training to get more people involved, because I think talking the same language and understanding things. I mean, we had done quite a few more changes. So this actually was already riding on the back of a little momentum, but there's so many more things that we can do. So I'm really looking forward to the team learning more about some of these ways and ideas. And that sense of achievement people have, and the confidence that it gives them. So that's my difference would be getting more people involved in training in manageable chunks. So thank you for listening, everyone.
Fantastic, Jeannie. Thank you so much. That's great. And I wondered, Jenny, did you want to add your thanks?
Yeah, without a doubt, Jeannie. And I know this will be the case for everybody else as well, but occupational health is a service, and I have heard a number quoted, which I don't, of your demand going through the roof by 400% during the pandemic. So to have completed ALT at a point where the pandemic really put and shone a light on your service, and again using the method to be able to just try and help us with some of that pressure and demand, but at the same time the outcome for the individual being so much more really clear. And I'm really struck by, I've not heard you say before, that bit about the I'm really struck by that bit about the immediate reward versus the indirect reward being greater. That's one possibly, particularly with your, is an important one for us to grapple with, actually, isn't it? And how we can help recognise that scaling up, and how we as a senior team might be able to help that value and that recognition of the different way of doing it that you don't get immediately, but you do get from another source, feels like an important learning point for me as well, listening to you. So huge congratulations, like everybody else. It's just phenomenal. But I think it's showing that when we're under most pressure, and I know everybody's sick of me saying it, but when you're under most pressure, using the method is where you need to start, because it eases the pressure quite quickly.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. That's great. Really, really excellent reflections, presentations. Really well done to all four of you. I think those are tremendous. I'm going to move now because I'm slightly behind the time available. But I hope colleagues can just stay a little longer if possible. Don't worry if you can't. But we've got now the KPO team who are going to tell us, which is really exciting, about the new training offering, the Leeds Improvement Method Foundation Day. So over to you, Helen.
Thanks, Julian. It's really just to share the dates that are now coming out. So if colleagues will be aware that the KPO team have worked really hard to redesign Lean for Leaders. And so what you can see on the screen now is the new foundation day. And so this is for all colleagues in the organisation. And so these are the dates that we've released in terms of colleagues being able to join us on that training. And if staff just want to go to the KPO pages on the intranet, or you can search the Limb Foundation. And so the team are more than happy to provide any information if people are not sure, or if they want to find out further information about the day. It's a very interactive day. It's far more facilitation. There's not many slides. So staff will be delighted. It's very interactive, and the feedback we've had has been excellent. And I think, you know, picking up on some of the comments that colleagues have shared today, meeting staff you wouldn't normally meet and listening about somebody else's workspace, and really recognising that you might work in very different areas, but actually we have very similar challenges. And so, you know, I think staff have really embraced meeting new colleagues to be able to start their LIM journey, really. If anyone's got any further questions, I know that Sophie's on the call, or I'm happy to answer any, but that was about it, really.
Thanks very much, Helen. Let's move into Q&A. So if anyone does have any questions about the new training offering, which looks great, and also, of course, the 4 advanced lean graduates reporting on their excellent work, now's the time. So just a minute or two for any questions or comments on anything from today's report out. Jenny.
I've just come from a conversation with a lot of people about how we embed managing in line with the Leeds way, and the issue of time keeps coming up. And I really think we've got a massive opportunity to be able to help have that conversation about this freeing up people's time. So I'm really keen, Helen, to just make sure that we continually dovetail our work together on this, in order that you know, our messages and our positioning of the method is just so integral to the way we do things. So again, it just becomes more and more and more and more powerful each time we hear these stories and we work with the method. I think I'm excited about what more we're going to be able to do, and I'll get in touch with you and the team. Great.
Thanks very much, Jenny. That's good. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I did want to just say one more thing for today, which is, Helen, this is your last report out. So I think it might even be your last working day with us, is it?
It is, yeah.
It is. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So that's, I'm sure you can't either, but I couldn't leave report out today of all days without saying an enormous thank you to you, and just what a brilliant colleague you've been, and what a fantastic job you've done as our KPO lead. And we can see, I think, from what we've heard today, the quality of the reflections and the work that our advanced lean graduates have done is testimony to the work of the KPO and the extent to which we're embedding and disseminating the Leeds improvement method. And also, I feel the tone, style, approach you've taken has been so engaging, empowering, and actually has exemplified the behaviours we ask for as part of the Leeds improvement method, in terms of those big ears, big eyes, small mouth, and so on. And you've been a great source of guidance to us as an executive team as well. And I know that working closely with Phil and strengthening the KPO in the time you've been with us has been great. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for all of us on behalf of Leeds Teaching Hospitals to you. It's been a key part of our journey, and you've really laid the foundations with some of what you've just been saying for the future, particularly on transforming our education and training offer. So many, many thanks. And I don't know, Phil, if you want to add anything to my comments.
Thanks, Julian. So, yeah, I mean, Helen, it's been fantastic. I think, took over, we know, with some challenges in the team and led it through the pandemic as well. And as we talked about when we met up with the team, some of the kind of crowning glory, I think, has been the vaccination programme, which your input was, absolutely transformational on. And I think, as I said then, but I'll say it again, I think for many people it was a real kind of eye-opening moment when they realised the real power of the method to be able to improve how we deliver our business. So we'll miss you, but you're not going far away, and it's one big network, of course, of trusts in the improvement programme. So we'll definitely be in touch, and best wishes from me, and I know from all the KPO team and wider, and many thanks.
Great, thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything, Helen?
Bit starstruck. I will just echo. I think today's report out's absolutely blown me away. I mean, I've been having reflective conversations with colleagues, and when I said, "Can you share some reflections?" they're like, "That for 3 minutes?" And of course, we're now over time. They've all shared amazing reflections, as absolutely expected. But it's so lovely to see staff really get this and to apply it to their practice. And to recognise, it really can be quite challenging, but equally it can be quite exciting. And so, I think, as Jeannie said, there's so many things that we do in our daily work that just we don't give the recognition to, and time is one of them, about where we save time, because it's so easily filled with something else, and we forget that. And so, I am leaving a little bit excited, but actually I'm really quite sad. But I know that obviously I will be in touch with a lot of colleagues. The sharing, network and improvement is excellent. So I've not really said goodbye to people. I've just said I'll speak to you soon, because I absolutely know that will be the case. So it's I'm just going back across to the other side of the Pennines, which will save my little car's wheels a little bit and save a bit of pollution on the M62. So I'm not far away, and I am going to be watching and hopefully collaborating with the VMI journey that you're about to start. So very exciting times, and I genuinely am very grateful for the opportunities I've been given here. So
Right.
Contributing back to the NHS, just in a slightly different part of the world.
No, that's great, and we will keep in touch with you, Helen. There's no doubt about that. And as you say, we've got a great improvement network developing across NHS organisations nationally, which I know you'll be a really important part of. So thanks very much. That's a sort of bittersweet report out, but really great in terms of listening to colleagues giving their experience of advanced lean training. And I can't think of a better kind of testimony, Helen, to what you've done and the work you've done, and finishing on a real high with those. So many thanks. Thanks for staying on a few more minutes. That's the end of Report Out for today. See you next time. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.